Roger Smith isn't just an alien. He's what we become when we stop pretending to care about anyone else. Underneath the wigs, costumes, and accents is something most of us don't want to look at too closely. A mirror. In American Dad, Roger is comic relief. Yes, but more than that, he's a relentless psychological case study in narcissism, trauma, and social performance. The show uses his alien status not to distance him from humanity, but to strip the social masks off of it. Created by Seth MacFarlane, Roger serves as more than just a family's extraterrestrial house guest. He functions as a psychological mirror, reflecting and amplifying the worst impulses of humanity while simultaneously revealing uncomfortable truths about our own capacity for selfishness, manipulation, and cruelty. Today, we're going deep into the tragedy of Roger Smith, why his constant shape-shifting isn't funny but terrifying, how he reflects the most toxic part of American culture, and why we laugh at someone who's clearly in pain. We'll explore how his alien status serves as a metaphor for otherness, how his behavior patterns reveal complex psychological defense mechanisms, and why his character represents one of animation's most unflinching examinations of narcissistic personality disorder. From the moment he's introduced, Roger is isolated, hidden away in an attic, a secret, a burden. This alienness isn't just physical, it's social. He can't be seen, can't belong. His exclusion mirrors how society treats undesirables or those who don't fit a mold, queer people, immigrants, trauma survivors. Roger's status as a literal alien provides a perfect framework for exploring themes of otherness and belonging. Forced into hiding, denied basic social interaction, Roger's early characterization shows someone desperately seeking connection while simultaneously being told he doesn't belong. To survive, Roger starts performing. His hundreds of personas aren't jokes. They are a shield. But what begins as camouflage turns into fragmentation. In episodes like Jenny from the Block,
Name's Jenny. Jenny from the block.
Roger loses himself in his identities, literally forgetting his Roger at all. This isolation breeds what psychologists call maladaptive coping mechanisms. Unable to form genuine relationships, Roger creates an elaborate fantasy world through his personas. Each persona represents a different aspect of human experience that Roger feels excluded from. But here's where it gets psychologically interesting. Roger doesn't just adopt these identities for fun. He embeds himself so deeply into each role that he often forgets his true self. This isn't mere method acting. It's dissociation, a psychological defense mechanism where individuals disconnect from their core identity to cope with trauma or stress. This isn't comedy. It's dissociation, a trauma response where someone fractures their personality to survive. Roger performs humanity so constantly that he's no longer sure if he is a self beneath the wigs. He isn't adopting characters. He's abandoning himself. The tragedy is at his most lovable when he's just being Roger, awkward, selfish, but vulnerable. But it's the one version of himself he avoids most. The fact that Roger can maintain multiple personas within the same social circles, often having relationships with the same people under different identities, suggests a fragmenting of self that goes beyond comedy. Roger's need to be constantly performing different identities reveals a profound emptiness at his core. Like many individuals with narcissistic traits, he cannot maintain a stable sense of self without external input, leading to an exhausting cycle of persona creation and abandonment. Roger exhibits many traits of narcissistic personality disorder: grandiosity, lack of empathy, obsession with status. But American Dad lets us see it all play out without moral commentary. Roger exhibits nearly every diagnostic criterion for narcissistic personality disorder, but his alien status allows the show to explore these traits without the limitations of human psychology. His grandiose sense of self-importance manifests in his belief that he is inherently superior to humans, despite being dependent on them for survival. In The One That Got Away, Roger literally splits into two people, Roger and Sidney Huffman. It's a horrifying metaphor. Roger's need to reinvent himself is so great that it becomes its own monster. Consider Roger's relationships with the Smith family. He views them not as individuals with their own needs and desires, but as extensions of himself, tools to be manipulated for his benefit. When Stan doesn't laugh at his jokes, Roger doesn't consider that the joke might not be funny. Instead, he assumes Stan is defective. When Francine doesn't enable his latest scheme, she becomes the enemy. He can seem caring, but always with a catch. He buys someone a gift, but only to manipulate them later. He throws a party, but it's to steal attention. Episodes like Stan's Best Friend show this fake empathy unraveling. This inability to empathize, true empathy, not the performative kind Roger occasionally displays, is perhaps his most defining characteristic. Roger can intellectually understand that others have feelings, but he cannot genuinely care about those feelings when they conflict with his desires. His narcissistic rage, those moments where he explodes when contradicted, is played for laughs, like in Love AD style when a relationship rejection turns him into a stalker. But psychologically, it's telling. Roger is fragile. His sense of self can't survive disapproval. In Rubberneckers, he becomes a rideshare driver just to manipulate his passengers into liking him, then sabotages them the moment they don't. Roger's narcissistic rage provides some of the show's darkest comedy, but from a psychological perspective, these outbursts reveal the fragility beneath his grandiose exterior. And that's why he performs, because he's terrified of being unlovable without the act. Like many narcissists, Roger's self-image is simultaneously inflated and paper-thin, requiring constant maintenance and violently defended against any threat. Each persona exists to feed a specific narcissistic need: control, attention, validation. But each also erodes his actual sense of self. The show brilliantly illustrates this through episodes where Roger appears to perform acts of kindness only to reveal ulterior motives. His generosity is always transactional, his love conditional. We don't get much about Roger's origin, but what we do know paints a dark picture: government captivity, medical testing, decades of hiding. His instability isn't random. It's a response. While American Dad rarely delves into Roger's backstory, the glimpses we get suggest a being who has experienced significant trauma, captured by the government, subjected to experimentation, forced into hiding. Roger's experiences mirror those of refugees, asylum seekers, and anyone who has been systematically dehumanized. He drinks constantly, hoards possessions, abandons jobs, lovers, even names. In Oedipal panties, he becomes obsessed with Francine's mother, then destroys her life. These compulsions aren't quirks. They're an attempt to control an environment that never felt safe. His compulsive behaviors, the constant drinking, the shopping addiction, the hoarding of personas and identities, can be understood as trauma responses. These behaviors provide temporary relief from an underlying anxiety that comes from never feeling truly safe or accepted. In Fran 9/9/11, Roger can't understand forgiveness until he's forced to sit in vulnerability. It's one of the only times he tries to confront his behavior, and it breaks him. Roger's abandonment issues manifest most clearly in his relationships with the Smith family. Despite his constant complaints about them, he becomes violently possessive when threatened with their loss. In Roger's Baby, we see him try to raise a child, only to become so controlling and erratic that he sabotages a relationship. It's another trauma loop, fear of abandonment leading to preemptive destruction. He's not cruel by nature. He's performing cruelty because kindness got him hurt before. This push-pull dynamic, simultaneously rejecting and clinging to his attachments, is classic trauma bonding behavior. The self-destructive nature of many of Roger's schemes can be understood as a form of trauma reenactment. By creating chaos and then surviving it, Roger maintains a sense of control over his environment. He would rather create predictable disaster than face unpredictable abandonment. And when offered help, he mocks it, because acknowledging pain means acknowledging that something was taken from him. This resistance to genuine healing keeps him trapped in cycles of self-destruction and relationship sabotage. Before we examine Roger as America's mirror, it's worth comparing him to another broken non-human character, Bojack Horseman. Both Roger and Bojack are narcissistic, traumatized beings using performance to avoid genuine connection. But their paths diverge in one crucial way: self-awareness. Bojack, despite his countless relapses and selfish acts, occasionally glimpses his own monstrosity. In moments like his conversation with Diane in the series finale, he acknowledges the pain he's caused. He tries therapy, rehab, genuine apologies. He fails constantly, but he tries. Roger, he mocks therapy. When forced into vulnerability in Fran 9/9/11, he breaks down not from guilt, but from having his performance exposed. Bojack sees his personas as lies he tells the world. Roger sees them as the only truth worth living. The difference isn't that Bojack is better, it's that Bojack occasionally wants to be better. Roger has made peace with being a monster, And maybe that's why we can laugh at Roger's cruelty while Bojack makes us uncomfortable. Roger has given up on redemption entirely. This comparison makes Roger's tragedy even starker. He has the same capacity for growth that Bojack shows, but has chosen to bury it under layers of performance. Roger isn't incapable of change. He's unwilling to try. Roger doesn't just parody people. He parodies American archetypes. Each persona, whether a ruthless CEO or washed-up celebrity, is a character study in cultural rot. Perhaps Roger's most brilliant function is as a dark mirror to American society. His personas don't just represent individual characters. They embody American archetypes taken to their logical extreme. The ruthless businessman, the manipulative socialite, the exploitative artist. Roger reveals the ugly truth beneath these seemingly respectable roles. In Roy Rogers McFreely, he becomes a town bureaucrat and enacts tyrannical rule. In Roger and Me, his identity theft becomes a weapon. He embodies consumerism, addiction, toxic ambition, then shows us what it looks like when those things have no limit. Roger amplifies the worst traits of each family member: Stan's authoritarianism, Francine's vanity, Steve's entitlement, Haley's self-righteousness. He serves as a psychological funhouse mirror, showing them, and us, what we become when we stop pretending to care about others. Even more disturbing, the Smiths begin to act like him. Stan lies. Francine manipulates. Steve cheats. It's not that Roger corrupts them. It's that he reveals they weren't that different to begin with. His casual cruelty, his assumption that others exist for his benefit, his inability to maintain relationships based on mutual respect, these aren't alien traits. They are human traits stripped of social conditioning and moral restraint. Roger represents what we might become if freed from consequences and social expectations. He's not the monster in the attic. He's just the only one not pretending. The show's genius lies in how other characters occasionally adopt Roger-like behavior, revealing that his capacity for selfishness and manipulation isn't uniquely alien, it's disturbingly human. Roger Smith is hilarious, but is also deeply sad. His personas are funny, but they are also cries for help. He doesn't know who he is. He just knows is not enough. Roger Smith represents one of television's most unflinching examinations of narcissism, trauma, and capacity for human cruelty. His alien status provides a safe distance that allows viewers to laugh at behaviors that will be horrifying in a human character. In laughing at Roger, we laugh at the part of ourselves we don't want to acknowledge, the needy, performative, image-obsessed part that just wants to be loved and will burn everything down trying to get it. But perhaps that's the point. By making Roger literally inhuman, American Dad forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth that his worst traits, his selfishness, his lack of empathy, his need for constant validation, exist within all of us. Roger Smith is a cartoon, but is also a warning. What happens when someone performs humanity for so long? They forget how to be human. Roger Smith is more than just comic relief. He's a psychological case study, a social mirror, and a reminder that the line between human and monster might be thinner than we'd like to believe. In laughing at Roger, we're forced to confront the Roger within ourselves, and that might be the most terrifying punchline of all. What's the dark Roger moment you've seen? Drop it in the comment.